The Madman! Welcome to another Forged in the Barrens card review. And we start with two very sassy sisters today. Tamsin Rome, the Warlock Legendary and the Warlock Mercenary. 3 mana 1/3. Whenever you cast a shadow spell that costs 1 or more, add a copy to your hand that costs 0. If the shadow spell is worth like 3 or more mana, then Tamsin at the very least is like, oh hey, copy another shadow spell. There's several shadow spells that are solid. Siphon Soul is superb, Soul Shear, splendid, Drain Soul is spicy. These spells sucked previously. Some buffs solidified their status. Now let's go on to the other side. Usually I would show all the Warlock cards first, but this is a flavor lead-in to her sister, Cariel Rome. 4 mana 4/3, Paladin Legendary, Rush, Divine Shield. Whenever this attacks, reduce the cost of holy spells in your hand by 1. If this didn't have the 3 lines of text after Rush and Divine Shield, she'd already be like pretty much a mainstay. So Cariel Rome, think of that as a flanking strike which deals 4 damage and arrives with a 4/3. On top of that, you can just play Cariel Rome onto a board and no one would laugh at you for playing a 4 mana 4/3 Divine Shield. But add on to that the fact that you can actually get some real benefits off her. Basically every Paladin spell out there is going to be a holy spell. This does include the Librams, by the way. It's almost like a Paladin mechanic to just have every card be a little bit better than average. And then like it slowly adds up into an unfair deck, which is kind of my style. It's why mid-range Paladin tends to be one of my favorite styles of play. And I know I'll be using a lot of Cariel Rome. Let's go off of Cariel and add in a new direction for Paladin to go in. Veteran War Medic is a 4 mana 3/5. After you cast a holy spell, summon a 2/2 medic with lifesteal. So there's clearly going to be some sort of holy theme in Paladin. Maybe this is the only holy card, who knows. Even if it is, I think this will be pretty impactful. It's a Violet Teacher, which summons 2/2s instead of 1/1s, and the 2/2s also have lifesteal. And distinctly, the holy spells can cost 0 because Librams are holy spells. We got a final Paladin card here. 4 mana, Invigorating Sermon. Give +1/+1 to all minions in your hand, deck, and battlefield. Yeah, it's just a little too much mana, I think, for what it does. It's tough for a card to only be good when you are really going for a very, very long game. And for that card to cost 4 mana, that's a lot of mana to spend. Going back to the Warlock cards for a bit, Soul Rend. 4 mana shadow spell. Deal 5 damage to all minions. Wow. Destroy a card in your deck for each killed. So this is a very, very interesting type of card. That's obviously very powerful. The destroy a card in your deck for each killed is a big problem though. That's a big drawback when you're playing it against decks which you actually expect to go to fatigue against. And usually you would put this in a control deck, and control decks must plan to go into fatigue. So this goes into a very unusual matchup specifically. It's great in control versus aggro. You make them cry by playing the Soul Rend. That is a really interesting card which makes you wonder if you're willing to commit this type of sacrifice into Warlock. And something that may encourage you to do so is the Bloodshard Bristleback. 3 mana 3/3 lifesteal. With Battlecry, if your deck contains 10 or fewer cards, deal 6 damage to a minion. So a 3 mana 3/3 lifesteal isn't quite good enough to play by itself, though maybe it's a little bit close. That Battlecry is very strong though, and it does trigger the lifesteal. How fast can you actually get this to activate? Well, I was thinking if you're drawing at a rate of an average of 1.5 cards each turn, which might be something like you don't tap the first 5 turns, but then you do tap from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then you're nearly there. I'm definitely tempted enough by that huge benefit to actually play Bloodshard Bristleback. And again, there is some significant synergy with Soul Rend. And if you do combine these two cards together, you actually do create what is probably the ultimate anti-aggro deck. If you really hate aggro, just Soul Rend them and then play Bloodshard Bristleback. and gain lots of health while killing something and developing a lifesteal minion. And in the theme of sacrifice for Warlock, there is the Grimoire of Sacrifice. 1 mana, shadow spell, destroy a friendly minion, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Again, an interesting path for the Warlock to take, because usually control decks cannot consistently field minions, and usually dealing damage to enemy minions is something that control decks want to be doing. This fits into a zoo deck, which has bad minions or minions you want to sacrifice, which is specifically for the mirror matchup or against other aggro matchups. So it's tough to find a card that only works in certain matchups, but it is fairly efficient. And if you do have Death Rattle, it's a Death Rattle trigger. On to Druid. There's a cool value card, Mark of the Spike Shell. 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2. If it has Taunt, add a copy of it to your hand. That's a value card right there. I think the really blatant card that you want to combo with this is Dreaming Drake, which is a very efficient taunt minion and cheap too, so something you can easily put the Mark of the Spike Shell on. Other interesting combinations would be Carnival Clown. If you do manage to play a 10 cost and then actually corrupt your Carnival Clown, and then you play your Carnival Clown, you could innervate into the Mark and then get another set of Carnival Clowns. Strongman is a similar way, where you could just, not play the Strongman the turn you corrupt it, and then later on play Strongman and Mark. And then that's like a 2 mana to get another 6/6 taunt. Whether or not this type of value druid exists, and if Mark of the Spike Shell is enough value to push that, I find that in doubt, but it's a cool way to go. One thing I don't think will work though, is I believe we're seeing the first bad rank spell, and Druid has the honor of getting it. It's a Living Seed. 2 mana to draw Beast, reduce its cost by 1. Rank 2 has it reducing the Beast cost by 2, and rank 3 has it reducing it by 3. And I really had to scratch my head thinking, what in the world is the purpose of this card? So you're trying to mana ramp into your Beast specifically. Unfortunately, because you're drawing a random beast from your deck, there's not necessarily that much consistency. And there's also the question of what in the world do you want to ramp into? I feel like this card probably could have started off reducing its cost by 2. 1 just is very, very weak. Now on the other hand, Mage gets a really interesting rank spell, Flurry. 0 mana. 0 mana is very spicy. Freeze a random enemy minion. But where this really shines is when you get to rank 2. Now you're freezing 2 random enemy minions for 0 mana. That's actually pretty substantial. You could swing a game by playing Flurry rank 2 into an actual card. And rank 3 freezes 3 random enemy minions. And that's a really cool signature card when in combination with the Mercenary who's casting this spell. Varden Dawn Grasp. 4 mana 3/3 Battlecry, freeze all enemy minions. If any are already frozen, deal 4 damage to them instead. It is really specific to combo a card with a legendary in particular, but Flurry, rank 2 on turn 5, alongside Varden Dawn Grasp, is 2 cards to develop a 3/3 and deal 4 damage to 2 enemy minions. That is really specific to put together, but it is quite possible that both of the cards individually are good enough in some sort of tempo deck. There have been tempo decks in the past which have run Frost Nova in order to get their early game minions to hit the face more often. And also later in the game to stop the enemy minions from attacking while you finish them off with burn. So Varden Dawn Grasp is perhaps the reason why Frost Nova rotated out, to enable more freeze to actually be printed. And that's really cool. Haha. Priest of Unch. 5 mana 5/5 Priest card, Taunt. Battlecry, if you've restored health this turn, gain +3/+3. I could make a comment that this is a value card. And yeah, that would be true, but that's really not that much value. Clearly you're not trying to use your hero power in combination with this, because then you're basically playing a 7 mana 8/8 with Taunt. You need to combine this with a card that's providing healing by itself. But ultimately, I think this is one of those cards that's not going to see play. You can even look at Brittlebone Destroyer, which for 4 mana kills a guy and gives you a 3/3 with the prerequisite that you've healed. And Priest of Ansh is just, you know, that's not as good as Brittlebone Destroyer, which didn't really see play, so I think it's pretty easy to say that Priest of Ansh won't see play. Hunters get a cool legendary mercenary, Tavish Stormpike. 3 mana 2/5, after a friendly beast attacks, summon a beast from your deck that costs 1 less. I do think that is powerful enough to gently encourage you to go down a path of going beasts. And while it's not like the reason to go beasts, there just happen to be a decent amount of cards around, perhaps enough to generate like a beast chain. So Tame Beast does give you higher mana cards, beasts, depending on the rank. So if you play it on 5, alongside this mercenary, you could go turn 5 Tavish and Tame Beast, and then immediately attack with your 4 mana beast. And then you perhaps could get Zixor, which also has a rush. And then you attack with Zixor, which gets you a 2 mana. So yeah, Tavish can enable some pretty bursty, spiky turns. Tavish Stormpike is also good with not just rush, but beasts with stealth as well. Tavish is statted aggressively enough that if you just get anything off of him, he's excellent value. So we could be right on the precipice of a good beast hunter deck. And finally, we have a very spicy mercenary. It's Firemancer Florgal. 2 mana 2/3 Shaman Legendary, which is a Murloc. After you play a Murloc, deal 1 damage to all enemies. What a Murloc. This is a major reason to play Murloc Shaman. And I usually don't talk about wild, but indeed, if you play Firemancer Florgal, and then you toss this poisonous, every single Murloc you play will wipe the opponent's board. Now the main problem with this in Standard right now is, yeah, you've got Florgal, and yeah, you've got Nofin Constapis, and those two are really, really powerful cards, which really push the Murloc Shaman archetype. But then the question is, are there enough Murlocs? You do have some cards that are sticking around that are actually quite good. Magic Fin is a solid Murloc. And of course, Crab Rider. You've seen Crab Rider a lot. That's a great Murloc. And perhaps it's the time for lesser played Murlocs such as Felfin Navigator and Fishy Flyer to enter the scene. So we'll have to wait and see if there's some other good Murloc to bridge the scene, or if all those Murlocs together are enough to make a really solid and scary Murloc Shaman deck. So thanks for watching another edition of Blizzard Reveals More Value Cards. Hopefully we get even more value cards in the next. Stay tuned.